Good evening. It is Monday, September 22nd at 6:21 p.m. I am Jeffrey Whitten. This is the Recreations and Parks Committee. I'm joined by Mr. Roselle and Mr. Schilling this evening. We're here to talk about a grant application through the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission for the Downtown Riverfront Recreation Trail Project. And I understand that Mr. Davis will give us some more information on that.
Yes, thank you. Very similar to the last application you just went through. This grant application would be through NVRPC, and the project is part of the Great Miami River Lowhead Dam Removal and River Improvement Project. So essentially, to take a step back a little bit, this project is one piece of a larger project, right? A larger comprehensive project. It's kind of three phases. So the first phase you'd have would be the low dam removal, and then the second phase would be the bike path itself, and the third phase would be the Crawford Street and downtown connection. So the first phase, Lowhead Dam removal, I think we all know about that. Won't go into too many details of that, although it includes rebuild of the levee toe, oxbow reconnections, and installation of weirs. So that is not locally funded. It will be state and federal grants that would pay for that project. And as part of that project, if completed, we would apply for this grant, which would cover the bike path cost. So the bike path asphalt essentially would cost about $200,000. We would be asking to apply for a maximum grant of $750,000 of that. So the leftover money we could put towards that low dam removal, because the project started in 2018. We were looking for moving forward in 2020, 2021. Of course, COVID happened. With COVID came inflation. So, and then of course our project kept getting pushed back. So now we have a little gap that exists between the project cost because of the inflation. So leftover funds of this grant could pay for or offset some of those other costs, especially for the levee toe rebuild. So with that, the bike path would cover from Treasure Island to Crawford Street. So, and then that would be allow for that to have it would go underneath. You wouldn't have a direct connection from Treasure Island all the way to the east side, and it also goes the other way from the east side over to downtown and to Treasure Island. So with that, the grant, the asphalt bike trail, we have actually budgeted in the budget for 2 to 3 years out, and of course, again, it would help offset the other costs of the projects, which there's a shortfall. And then the Crawford Street and downtown connection, what we are planning to do, and I put a packet in front of you that this is a project, a presentation we gave to the ATP, which is the Activate Troy Partnership, back in 2022, I believe. In the packet, there's some corrections. That was the first draft, but we thought it was the best to give you some background information. When we were considering this, we looked at two different roads, having the trail come along the south side, and then would connect it would actually connect to Crawford Street, not Clay Street in your packet, but it would still be very similar. The ATP, when we presented it, we voted and we felt that Crawford Street was the better option than Clay Street for several reasons. But for this, what it does is it gives a safer connection for everybody on the east side to come to downtown. B, for several different things. One, it would give the east side, which is kind of an underserved side of the community, it gives them a easier way to come in and provide a safer access. So if there's children, family who want to come downtown, they could simply jump on the bike trail, as opposed to going down some of the East Main Street, things of that nature, less traveled. Two, if you have children that you want to get on that want to go to the community park, you want to go to the Troy Aquatic Center, Hobart Arena, this is a safe route there, where they don't have to go through busy intersections. They can just jump on the bike trail and have a safer route there. So as part of this, the timing of this grant is critical for us. As other development opportunities occur on the east side, we have the Spinnaker building right now being raised for possible development. And then if the school levy passes, you also have Van Cleve and some other nearby schools that could be redeveloped. So the timing of this grant, if we are awarded, wouldn't be funded until the fiscal year of 2026. So the timing does play out with the Lowhead Dam removal and the school ideas if the levy does pass. So I did give a presentation of this meeting, this concept to the merchants meeting this morning, and there was some misinformation provided, and I wanted to be pretty clear because when I was speaking with that group, they asked about taxpayer dollars going towards the project, and there's no taxpayer dollars going towards the project outside of the cost of the bike trail unless we are funded by this grant, which then would offset that cost as well. So, and then we may have improvements to Crawford Street, and we're currently looking for grants to cover that as well. So it's not, the city is not paying $4 million for this bike trail. I just want to be very clear about that. So, and with this project, we do have support letters from Miami County Parks Department, the Troy Area Chamber of Commerce, Miami Conservancy District, the Miami County Soil and Water District. And the project has been recommended by the Dayton Development Coalition, basically PDAC, which is their Priority Development and Advocacy Committee, as the funding for this project will improve the region. So as the other grants that Jill just went over, we are asking for emergency language, as the deadline is also October 11th.
Jill talked about in her presentation that project got scored. Does this project get scored in any kind of similar way of how it might get weighed?
It will be scored. It will be scored to be approved. So currently, it does have the recommended status. We are hoping to improve on that. So one would be safety, two is connectivity. If you go back to the downtown riverfront study, we quoted that in the application process as it talks about connecting the surrounding neighborhoods to the downtown area in a safe way, and this is one of the safest ways we could come up with. So, and it was supported by ATP, and is currently in the comprehensive plan as it adopted the downtown riverfront study.
Mr. Schilling, do you have any questions?
Yeah, first off, where do the federal IIJ funds come from?
So that I would have to refer to either, if Jill left, I'm not a part of the group for the MVRPC, and maybe Patrick is aware of that as he sits on the MVRPC board.
Those are federal grants that were part of all of the...
So they're taxpayer money, just not coming from the city of Troy coffers.
So to be more specific, with the misinformation that was out there that appeared to stir a number of folks up was whether or not we were going to be using our local general fund, our local income tax fund.
Right.
And that's where Mr. Davis is saying, no, that is not the case. The tow is part of the Low Dam project, which is $3.75 million of the $4 million that you saw in your packet. The only commitment that we have made, and it's been in several budgets over like the last 2 or 3 years,
Yeah, but that could disappear.
is the asphalt. Anything can disappear, Mr. Schilling.
We've had other things disappear out of our budget projections. So the question is that you said that this is taxpayer money, but it's not coming from the city of Troy.
Correct, from general fund, yep.
Okay, that was a point I wanted to make.
Okay.
And then for those that are not familiar with the map of the city of Troy, Crawford Street would essentially be east of the Hobart Cabinet Building. Is that the one that runs between the Catholic Church and the
St. Pat's.
It runs
St. Pat's and
right down past St.
right
Pat's
to the west.
to Water Street.
It is the street to the west of St. Pat's.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So it's to the east of the Hobart Cabinet structure.
Correct.
Okay, that's-
Half of it.
Huh?
Half of it,
Yeah.
corporate cabinet. But, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That was.
So,
And again, we don't know when the dam's really coming out yet, right? Have they put a date that they're going to, is it a year date that they're going to take the dam out?
We are, like Mr. Davis said, they are looking at, there are 2 or 3 different federal and state grants that the parties that are involved are, including us, are looking at to fund, to fill the gap. And so we're anticipating that design will be coming to you with a recommendation for a design firm for our part of the project, much the same as what PICWA has done, probably later in the month, maybe in November. We look at design for 2024, so that would be a 25-year construction project.
So the estimate now is we might get the dam out 2025.
25 is what the actual work we think will be done.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Roselle?
so the people got hung up on this $4 million you were paying from. Isn't that referenced in our earlier resolution that we're maxing it at? The dam project and everything that we passed a year ago, or to where you're
I think with the reference that you're referring to, in the resolution is that we are not, we are committed to removing the dam, but the construction or the actual removal of the dam is not our cost. So we won't pay for that, with local funds. The $4 million, I'm not sure.
Is that the whole thing?
The $4 million in the report was the original grant that was received through the EPA. It just happens to be coincidental that they're the same amount, but with inflation and the way it's gone. So that $4 million is different than this $4 million. There's some overlap, but that number is an old number.
The 750 that you're going after, Tim, is strictly for the bike path.
It would be for some of the levee tow as well. So, like I stated, the path would cost about $200,000. The rest of that would go towards the low dam head removal project, which would be some of the levee tow repairs.
Is that
Actually, full disclosure to Mr. Rozell, it's closer to $250,000 when I do the math. So the other $3.75 million of the $4 million is the tow expansion and moving that we would do, which would underlie the asphalt. So 82% of it, of that $4 million, is associated with the low dam project.
And that's what you're going after grants for, to offset 3.25?
That's correct.
Similar grants, or we know any grants that we've applied for to offset that now?
We continue to search for funds. We've applied for other grants. We have some money secured for the overall project, and we're constantly going out looking for more as well.
There's a new program that's coming out. It's an H2O program, and the state, through development and the EPA, have already been reviewing a grant application for 2.3 or 2.5. I'm getting a 3, so $2.3 million. And so that's in process right now.
That's the main ones I have right now.
No question here.
Mr. Schilling?
Yes. In looking at the presentation here, I know you talked about the grain elevator on Ray Street.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is that right now there's a chain link fence around that property. Is there anything going on with that, or is that for safety reasons?
Oh, that's for safety reasons, yes.
Okay.
There are silos on the side of that, chutes, I should say not silos, chutes, big steel chutes, and so building or health condemned.
The building department.
Building department condemned that, and so to make sure that people can't get in and onto the property, we fenced it off.
Okay. I didn't know there's something with it, or, okay, that's great. I'm glad to see we're being safe.
Do any other council members have any comments or questions? Mr. Siebert, please come forward.
You want to come in the time, I guess.
Please.
I guess, Patrick, my question's more to what you just said, and I couldn't really hear you back there that well, so it is interesting from that perspective to hear back there. So I just looked it up. In August 21st of 2021 when we approved the dam removal with the Department of Fish and Wildlife. That's when we had our committee meeting to adopt that. You're now saying that they're looking at 2025 for dam removal. I guess my question is, does this grant request tie in to the dam removal? What if the dam removal gets, not that I have a lot of trust in federal government, but let's say it gets bumped further and further, does this grant request continue in perpetuity, or do we get the money and we can put it to a different use if for some reason the low dam project gets delayed 'cause obviously, we're not gonna do the sidewalk, or the bike path without the low dam removal. I mean, it would flood all the time. So, I guess the question is, I don't know, you understand the crux of my question.
I'm sorry, I apologize, I winced when you said flooding, only because the low dam removal project is not going to change any of the flooding conditions that are out there. It is on the bottom shelf, much like the north side of the river is, and so when the river rises, it's still gonna flood, and it's meant to flood. We are, I think, maybe, I'll maybe guess at what you're trying to say there. We would not do the asphalt, our responsibility of the bike path, if the low dam project was not done, including the tow. Because the tow, being part of the low dam project, is not our responsibility, but we need the tow to build out the base so that we have enough room to put the southern bike path in. So, as far as timing of the 750, that would have to be something that we would talk to MVRPC, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife and EPA, all those being involved in the low dam project. As far as being able to use that funding for some other purpose, if it's consistent with any other grant that we've applied for, no, we would assume that we could not use it because the application is based on a certain set of objectives and uses. That does not mean that we couldn't go back to whoever the administrator is and say, okay, this project's not being done, but we still want to do the Crawford Street. Can we use it for Crawford Street? But I would not count on that unless we had that conversation and they agreed to it later.
I just recall a conversation that we had when we were doing an NVRPC grant one time, and it was, you gotta take these, like they don't like it if we're just sort of ad hoc, we hope that this project will come.
No, that's, well, that is correct when you're talking about STP and you're talking about CMAQ funds, and the previous committee's grant application, because that's very much road and infrastructure related. These, they can be a little bit more relaxed, but that's again why I'm saying I would not count on being able to use them different times and different ways. We are applying for a certain timeline, but I also will say that the IIJA is a new program, probably limited in time and scope, and so, the criteria may be a little different than the standard U.S. Department of Transportation structured programs that have been in existence for decades.
So I guess in my naivety and a simple question, are we going to be punished if we make this application, for simplicity purposes, if we make this application and we don't get the low dam, will MVRPC hold it against us for future grants?
We don't think so, no.
Okay.
Like I said, this is not like the CMAQ or the STP, because we've had that.
Because we've had that discussion in the past, right?
And it's happened to us once. It happens to everybody. They're just circumstances, but those are the standard infrastructure programs that MVRPC administers.
Good, and
So we can, if we get the grant, and it gets pushed out, we can just sit on the money till the project happens?
We'd have to get permission from MVRPC, because it is timed, it is put into a calendar.
Because they're usually use it or lose it.
Many times, but again, those are the typical, there's not much precedent for the IIJA programs.
Yeah. And just as an aside, I just want to confirm, because I'm honored to serve on the ATP, but we are Crawford Street, not Clay Street, correct? It is Crawford. That's what everybody agreed on at the other issue. So, and that is a cool project. So hopefully it will all work out. I just don't want us to do something kind of cart before the horse potentially. But thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Siebert. Mr. Phillips had a question.
Well, just to dovetail on that, we're not going to get, to Mr. Rozell's point, we're not going to get that money up front. That money is not going to be given. I mean, it'll be escrowed as you will, as a project either gets started or somewhere in there, but it won't be given up until things are actually cut in stone.
Is this a reimbursement? Some are reimbursement, some are banked, you know, some are just pay as you go. I'm not sure how this one. I think it's reimbursement.
Yeah.
So they'll hold it, and then
Right.
we'll have to ask for
Right.
it.
You know, we won't have it until we do it.
Do any other members of the audience have any questions? Please come forward.
Good evening. Wade Westfall, 305 West Water Street. Couple clarifying questions. So the total, because what I went out on, I think it hit Thursday or Friday, $3.9 million expense with a $750 request with 4,000 feet of bike paths. So you're saying tonight that is not $4 million for the bike path. You're saying it's $250,000 because the information you sent out was I the only one that? Thank you.
No, it went out on Facebook, and it was.
No, it went out in your own packet.
This spreadsheet went out.
Yeah.
And this spreadsheet includes the Troy Levy Tow and multi-use trail. So there are 5 line items in this that are directly associated with the asphalt part of it, which has been our local commitment. That's something that we've wanted, and it's above and beyond what's the objectives of the low.
So the base for the bike path is the overwhelming, is the tow.
Correct.
And so the base of the bike path is, if not done, we would not be spending approximately $4 million or thereabouts. This doesn't have anything to do outside of, this is not reclaiming the river quicker, whether that be by dredging. I know that I've had multiple conversations with ODNR today, and this would not expedite the reclaiming of the river when the Lowhead Dam is taken out. This would simply be spending the money to put in a base solid enough to put a $250,000 worth of asphalt on to go from Treasure Island to Hobart Cabinet approximately, correct?
That's probably an oversimplification, but will be vetted out and part of the detailed design, because the Lowhead Dam removal is not simply removing the dam.
Right.
There
Some
will be
weirs
a series of weirs.
Right.
2 or 3 of them up at Treasure Island. The river will be channelized. The shape and the width of the tow as compared to the north side, because part of the north side tow will be reshaped as well.
Right.
So it'll be channelized, and through all of that, then you're going to get the reclamation speed.
One quick question before I make a statement. Has the MCD approved off on this?
Yes.
They've
been
approved the
involved.
recreational trail?
Yes, they have been involved.
You did?
Yes,
You
we
did? Okay, well, that's good, because
They've been
that's
involved
always
in
a
this
challenge.
project from day one.
Well, I think it's important to acknowledge the existing recreational trail on the north side of the river is seamlessly integrated with the largest recreational linear path in the country, and we're all very proud of that. It connects Pickwood all the way down to Dayton, and we're connecting it Cincinnati, the whole 9 yards, so it's a very positive thing. The proposed trail in question, dollar-wise, we can debate that, but it appears to be about a cost of $4 million, and it looks to me like it's no more than right now, at this juncture, a spur route, and linking Treasure Island to an industrial site, which currently has some environmental issues that we all are aware of. The current trail is by far, it's a great asset. According to the data of Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, it averages about 100 people per day. This, to me, it concerns me because it really is a redundancy of the investment, but it comes at a very healthy price tag. This evening, in the previous council meeting, you moved forward to deal with a roundabout. That too happens to have about a $4 million price tag on it. Comparatively, traffic-wise, the amount of citizens that are going to use this, there's really no comparison. I've heard a lot about connectivity. Having co-chaired the MKS case study, some of the positive things that have come out of that, some of these things that are very, very positive, Not saying I'm against this as much as I'm saying maybe the cart before the horse. I would hope that the priority of connecting our west side of our community to our current trail system, which I can get anywhere on the east side to our current trail system without concern of life. But I would hope we would focus, this council, this committee would focus on making it a priority to connect our west side to not only our trail system, but also our vibrant downtown. So, thank you for the clarification, and that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Westfall.
Chair.
Mr. Titterington.
Just a couple of notes that I jotted down. First of all, the environmental issues in that area have been resolved. Otherwise, Spinnaker would not be coming down right now, or is down. I guess it's down pretty much. The one area that we are missing on the south side is that connectivity to the downtown, which is something that we've heard about throughout the years. The east side redevelopment is the other thing, and Commissioner Westfall mentioned the MKS-based study, and that is this is a continuation of the long-range development of that plan, where it makes sense. I'd like to remind, because I know Mr. Schilling, you're a very big advocate for west side connectivity as well, that there's actually, as part of the historic pavement that we have, rec trail that we have, there is a connection all the way to the west side through Westbrook. And so this keeps it on the south side of the river going into the east side, which is something that we lack. And that's why this would be such an important grant to get. I do want to reiterate again that of the $750,000, $250,000 of it, or a third, would be the asphalt for the rec trail. The other $500,000 would be able to go for the tow redevelopment, which, yes, is the base for the rec trail, but also serves as an important part of the low dam removal and the reshaping and channelization of the river. Thank you.
One other follow-up to Ms. Titterington's comment on the west side. Yes, I'm a very strong proponent of trying to connect the west side of Troy to the downtown, through recreational trails. And again, you're correct in that Westbrook is connected to the recreational trail, but the other 3,500 residents that are on the other side of the street, Kings Chapel area, and of course Stonebridge and some other areas out there. Mr. Westfall is correct that you're taking your life in your hands trying to get to downtown by using something other than a vehicle. And so again, I want to continue to press, and we need some help and some understanding and some plans to connect those 3,500 people that live on the south side of West Main Street to get some way to safely get them to the downtown by using some type of recreational trail. So just put that in record, I guess. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Schilling. Mr. Rozelle.
Oh, go ahead. I got one more question for Tim when we get done.
All right, that was perfect.
Okay. Tim, on your drawing, it says truck yard and artist in residency, 2 to 5 years. That looks like it's up even on, like, top of the levee, like the north side. Is that true? And the white trail, I would assume, is the green thing that's crossing the tracks? Down at the bottom, okay.
Is it concept one, or?
Okay, that leads the other question I had before, okay. So you're connected to the east side, is there anything that takes it up, like the one that goes under the Market Street Bridge on the north side? Are there ramps coming up to get you up to the top?
Yes.
To connect on the east side?
Yeah, that would be part of the detailed design.
Okay.
And that area that you see is circled in red. Red is kind of a launch area, if you will.
It's almost Crawford Street.
Right.
Okay.
Are there any others have any questions? Come forward, state your name and address.
Susan Westfall, 305 West Water Street. Couple things. I've lived on Water Street for 3 years now, but in the Troy area my whole life. And that south side gets blasted when it floods. I mean, blasted, because the river flows south, and on that curve, it gets blasted. So who's going to maintain that?
When you say blasted, I'm not sure exactly what you mean.
I've stood on that levee
Right.
when that river comes barreling down and against that south levee wall.
And-
So I see it being a problem maintenance-wise.
Maintenance in what way?
Of
Just
the
washing
path.
off? I mean, our park department would wash off the path like we do on the north
So
side.
it'd be Troy City Park Department responsible for,
Yeah, we would work with
maintaining it.
MCD and, but we would do it like we do on the north side where,
Okay.
you know, it's below Hobart Arena.
yeah, but I see it being more of a problem because it gets heavily blasted there. And I guess maybe you need to stand there during the flooding to see how that river flows south along that wall. But
Okay, but
that's neither here nor
and
there, I
before you
guess.
go to your next point, part of, because it's $3.25 million of the $4 million, that tow will be built up. So it'll be more like what's on the north side rather than what, you really don't have a tow now. It's just like, what, a 20-foot drop or whatever.
Concrete
on that
slabs.
distances, but, so you really don't have a shelf at all
Right.
on the south side.
Right.
That's what this tow does. It brings,
Yeah,
it'll.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, it's gonna be maintained. And you said no city money, you got all kinds of people working on this. So city money, tax money is being spent on this, so I'm gonna put that out there. But, my concern is that, is this a priority for the city of Troy? I've been on the park board for several years, and as far as Parks and Recs, we have way more priorities needed with our money. And I know we could get grant money if somebody put their energy into finding grant money. We need bathrooms that are flushable at Duke Park. During football games, soccer games, you gotta hike half a mile to get to a decent bathroom. We need pickleball courts. People are standing in line, waiting over 2 hours to play pickleball. Plenty of people, way more people than 100 people would be playing pickleball. We've needed baseball fields that don't flood. This was a good year. They only flooded a little early. But we have real needs. This is, to me, is not a necessity. And I'd love this to see our money spent on something that is really needed. If the dredging and all the money spent on beautifying the river makes it usable for people, that's awesome. Because we've been talking to Donnie Knight, and I know it's gonna be 2, 3, 4 years. He said minimum, that it'll probably be 3 or 4 years before you could get a kayak on there and be comfortable riding on it. The floating tents are gonna be a problem. He said it's gonna be really difficult to get weirs enough to float our tents. Of course, they blow up on the bottom, so sitting on rocks might not bother people as long as you're sitting in the river. I don't know. I don't get it. But we also have the need for housing to support our businesses downtown. So getting Spinnaker down, getting housing built, to me is more of a priority. I feel like we've got the cart before the horse on this project. Let's get some housing and a need for it before we get people building a bike path that's going to be used by maybe 100 people. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Westfall. Are there any other members of the audience who have any questions? Please come forward, state your name and address.
I'm Diana Cornelisi, 309 West Water. We've lived at 309 for over 35 years now, and I can guarantee you that river does flood in the springtime, and it does come up high. Most of the houses built in that area between the two bridges were built long before the 1913 flood, and we all had nice, they had nice lawns then. We don't have that now, and in my case, our house, is a very large house on a very small lawn. I walk out my back porch and walk down the step. My porch is 3 feet wide. I walk down my steps and I'm 40 inches from the levee wall. So that literally puts this right in my backyard. Given how much it does flood in the springtime, you're going to have to raise that toe, or whatever you call it, up quite a bit in order to get the bike path in there. It's not going to sit down where the river is right now. You're going to have to raise it. I just think it's a mistake to run a bike path that close to residential areas when people literally have it in their very small backyard. I think it's a problem. We do have problems now and again with kids that will walk down on the south side of the river, and all sorts of mischief entails. I just think it's a mistake to run a bike path that close to residential areas. And I will admit that some houses there have more yard than we do, but we don't have much, and I just think that it's redundant to have a second bike path when we already have one, plus the walking path on the other side of the river. So I agree with Susie. There's a lot of priorities that I think Troy could consider to be a bit more important than a redundant bike path. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members?
I have one more question. I'm still Steve. Just a comment. Until tonight, I thought we were talking about a $4 million project that was going to impact the city of Troy. Now we find out, it's only $250,000. I couldn't read, going through the document that was in the agenda, where that $250,000 was broken out. So I'm a high school graduate, and I'm not sure of all the blankety-blank federal, state, local, and everybody else, other agencies that we have to get money from. But a sentence that said, the city of Troy is responsible for only $250,000 of this would have been really, really helpful. I read through all this stuff. I am a high school graduate at least, and it's like, give me a break. I don't have maybe you guys are doing this full-time, so you understand it. For somebody that just comes to council meetings, give me a break. Give me some information so I can make an informed decision. As the lady just said, I could also argue about $250,000 for a bike path. Who asked for it? I mean, it's a nice thing, but there's lots of things you can buy for $250,000 that are nice. There's other things for $50,000 that are nice. So, the voters of Troy need to understand what they're voting for and what they're getting. And if you could put a little summary somewhere, that would be very helpful so they're informed. The other thing I'm going to ask in the future, council committee agendas should be listed under city council, not under the park board, okay? I tried to find this agenda and spent, 10 minutes looking for it because it was not under city council agenda, okay? So try to make it a little easier on us poor, uninformed people that have a vote, but apparently don't have much of a say.
Is that the first time you looked for an agenda? Just out of curiosity.
I looked for the agenda.
I mean, did you find it under Park Board just tonight or other times?
No, earlier this afternoon.
Yeah, just this one?
Yeah.
So this could have been an error versus it always being under there?
I would have never looked, because this is an agenda,
I wouldn't have either.
it's not just
for the one planning, it's for two other things. So it's like, okay. So, most of your committee meetings are listed under the city council agendas, okay? So when I didn't find it, I thought, well, maybe we're not having one, then I've heard, oh, okay, well, there is a meeting.
That's
So-
where I would say this one was probably just an error and got stuck under the wrong place, as opposed, if all the other ones are over here, this one's probably there,
Well,
and got misplaced.
yeah, I mean, just kind of, let's, you know,
Gentlemen, just so you know, I mean, we have it several places on the website. I'm looking at it right now, and under the calendar where it lists what tonight's events are, which is on the homepage of the website, you tap on city council committee meetings, and there is an agenda, and then the packet is also available to pull up. So it's.
you must be looking at a different page than I got.
I'm looking at the homepage, sir.
The homepage, you click on agendas and so on. You go to agenda, and it
That's one
starts
way you
off
do
with
it.
city council. This meeting was not listed under city council.
This is, I'm talking about the calendar that's on the homepage.
I don't look at the calendar.
This is the way I have to look for it. I'm not asking for much. Maybe I am. We will, I'll talk to the staff about that.
I don't look at the calendar. Maybe it's my mistake. I've got to look in 3 or 4 places before I find a blankety-blank agenda. Or not. Never mind. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from anyone else in the audience? Mr. Schilling, you had one final comment?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to, when I listened to the original presentation when Donnie came in, and about the removal of the dam and this type of thing, and we have to remember that when we take the dam out, the level of the river is going to drop. And so, you're right, when it floods, you have that cement wall on the south side of the river, and the river gets up into that cement bank area, but like I say, when the river, in my understanding, was 6 to 8 feet, so, the river, when it's all, when all the gravel and everything gets washed out, that's built up behind the dam, which they said it could take 3 or 4 years, the actual level of the river will be down maybe 6 feet or so. So you have that as a safety measure. The river has to rise 6 feet before it gets into any problem. And of course, the other part, as Mr. Tittering said, is that tow area is going to be built out, and I don't know how far up the bank it's going to go, but it's again, so this trail that we're talking about building, it may get flooded at times. Having used the trail between here and Piqua, there's some low areas there, and that along the river, and that gets flooded, especially there by where the trail goes under the interstate, and it gets flooded, it dries out, the county comes through and hoses it all off or brushes it off. I don't know how they clean it all off, and the trails, but it's just sitting there. And I'm thinking this is the same thing's going to happen if we decide to build this trail. Yes, it may at flood time. In this case, it'd be the city responsibility to come in and either I think the county has both a hose system that washes the thing off, and they also have brushes that come along and brush the residue off the trail. So those things are very resilient, from that standpoint. So. I don't think flooding is going to be, in my own mind, I don't think flooding is going to be a concern, because the trail, the recreational trail in other areas floods all the time, and you get, even down by the golf course, you drop down at the end of the golf course there, and where the old riverbed came out, and there's a bridge there, and that floods, and then you get out into that cornfield, and all that stuff floods, and then it gets cleaned off, and away you go again. So I'm not thinking it's going to be a real big deal, unless the pressure of the river would be enough to wash the tow away, but I'm sure that the engineers are going to take care of that for us. We'll see. Thank you.
Mr. Seer?
I just have one more good, question that's not really relevant.
Mr. Seer, please come up to the...
My voice is loud. I just heard something tonight that we hadn't heard as council, and I would ask Mr. Tiddington or Mr. Davis or someone to look into it. This is from the Dayton Daily News on August of 2021. Mr. Knight told council the removal project would benefit, including a boom in paddle sports, improved diversity and health, and improved safety for paddlers. Councilman Todd Seaver questioned the impact on the project on the river's use on the area of the city's Treasure Island and floating tent recreation option. Knight said that the project will not destroy these existing activities, but would actually enhance them. So tonight we heard that, and I'm not attributing it to Mr. Knight because I wasn't privy to the conversation, that it may be years before we're back to a kayak, tent, accommodating river. Can somebody please, I know it's not relative to this particular MVR or to this particular grant, but could we schedule a time, or can someone look into that to determine what Mr. Knight's actual position is? Because obviously that's, I think, part of the reason the council was so agreeable to this at the time it was presented was that we weren't really going to lose recreational activities, and I would like clarification to that.
We will reach out to Donnie and ask for clarification.
The other thing he told me was that our river will only be one-way activity, so,
I'm sorry, who is he?
Donnie Knight, which is fine. A lot of people get in, go down the river, have somebody pick them up, bring them back. But people need to realize that once you get in, once this is rerouted and done, it's going to be a one-way river. So you'll never be able to kayak down, turn around, and come back up the river. He said you won't be able to do that, so.
Wait, I don't understand that.
Based
That's
on
not
what?
right,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
right.
Based on
It's
what?
always been a one-way river.
No, you
because it
can
goes
turn around.
downstream.
We have always been able to kayak down, turn around, come back. He said you won't be able to do
And that's because
that.
of the dam.
Right, I agree.
You will.
I agree.
You will, but you'd have to use some kind of
A motor?
motorized,
And he also
help, 'cause it would
said
be
that
very
motorized, it probably won't be deep enough for a motorized boat.
It would you're correct.
So you're not
because
going to be able to turn around and come
It would have
back.
to be shallow bottom, right.
Right,
But the reason that is there is a low dam in the way, and so it just dams up the river, which is what
Right.
creates the biological
Right.
issues that we have and the safety
right. I'm
concerns
just
and all those
stating
others.
that that's
So,
how it's going to be. Just letting you know.
Thank you, Mrs. Westphal. Any final comments or, well, it doesn't have to be final, but are there any other comments or questions? So it won't be final. All right. With the understanding of the legislation before us and the recommendation for emergency, Mr. Rozell, do you have a recommendation?
Not really,
Would you like him to come back?
yeah.
Mr. Schilling?
I think we should go see if we can get the grants. I think would be the next step on this thing.
I am in agreement that we should move forward with emergency to see if we can get the grants. Mr. Rozell, do you have a...
I don't have a problem with that.
It is unanimous then that we will move forward with emergency. Is there anything else to come before the Recreation and Park Committee tonight?
yes, sir.
We are adjourned.